Do you love TV shows? We do too. Hello everyone, I'm Jeff.
And I'm Anna, and we're the hosts of We Judge a Show by Its Pilot, a podcast hosted by us, a married couple with an endless love for TV.
Whether you're searching for a new favorite series or ready to revisit an old classic, we're here to guide you through an infinite world of TV shows.
Each episode, we watch and discuss the pilot for shows, while also sharing personal stories that parallel the storyline.
So if you're tired of endlessly scrolling and not sure what to watch next, tune in and let us do the searching for you.
We Judge a Show by Its Pilot. New episodes every Tuesday and Friday, wherever you get your podcasts.
Your new favorite show is just one click away. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to our pod.
Hello. Happy Saturday.
Happy Saturday.
What's hanging?
What's hanging? Nothing's hanging. Work today. Came home, we did some swimming, got some exercise, watched a little bit of the documentary about the Tylenol murders.
Crazy.
Which is absolutely insane. I think it's like 3 episodes, so we just watched the first one, and then I was like, we're going to keep watching this, so let's stop and start recording.
Yeah, because I remember that happening, and you were not born yet.
Right.
So, you were like, I don't remember this, and, well, you were not born.
Well, because originally you were saying 1987, but like, just true crime in general, especially with something like that, I was just like, it wasn't that I don't remember it. I had never like heard of it.
Oh yeah.
Or maybe it was more of like I thought it was like an urban legend kind of thing, like razor blades and the candy kind of stuff, which ended up actually happening in Houston one time.
Well,
but,
actually, because of the Tylenol murders, I think it happened around the fall, like around October.
It was October 1st.
Yeah.
Yes, it was September 30th.
So people went crazy that year too, I think, thinking like candy was going to be poisoned.
Candy,
and I think
that sucks.
I think people just also went crazy not giving out candy or being extra cautious. It was like, I think it kind of like snowballed a lot of other things that year as well.
That's just so crazy. Did they ever, do you know, I mean, like, we're going to find out at some point, but did they ever find the person? It was unsolved. Yeah.
It was unsolved. I think there were some copycats, and then someone who we just saw at the very end who was a suspect, but it was apparently not him. And I don't think it was ever solved.
Doesn't help that he just has like the sketchiest face.
Oh my gosh,
of all time. No offense to that guy, but like
he looks crazy. And then the way he looked at the screen, he was like, "I'm the nicest guy.
Yeah, I would never hurt anybody.
I would never hurt anybody."
Yeah. So. Let me look at the camera with a nice little smile and just like couldn't be more creepy.
Yeah, exactly.
Anyway, we are continuing. I had to remind myself of what month it was.
June.
I know it's summer blockbuster month, but I almost said July. But yeah, we are still in June. We are recording our summer blockbusters, and we're kind of doing one that like I feel like this was probably, other than the last episode that we're going to do this month, which I think was the first one we thought of because it was loosely inspired. Maybe it was what loosely inspired this. We'll get to that whenever we record that episode, and I'll ask you. But this was probably one of the first shows that we were like, oh, well, we got to do this.
Oh, yeah.
So we're doing Cobra Kai today. If you don't know, it's based on the Karate Kid franchise, because with the new Karate Kid Legends just came out, so it's also good timing. They have officially joined franchises with Karate Kid, so now Jackie Chan and Ralph Macchio are in the new Karate Kid, so the Jaden Smith Karate Kid is now canon in the Karate Kid franchise.
Oh, wow.
Like, it's all connected now.
Oh, okay.
Which is really cool that they did that. It was really, and it's also really great that Ralph Macchio is having his renaissance as a film actor. Love the guy. I know Cobra Kai doesn't start out centering on him, but it's hard not to, especially when it revolves around Johnny, or revolves around William Zabka's character. But how can you not bring Ralph Macchio into it? Of course. I always wonder if, like, we'll get to
he was the true enemy.
Yeah, I wonder if
he was the true villain.
Right, according to Barney Stinson. Such a great episode. All right, so we got a lot to talk about. We both love the Karate Kid, and got some stuff to talk about. And we love Cobra Kai, and so we're gonna go ahead and get into some episode, series, and movie information.
All right. Cobra Kai, Ace Degenerate. Cobra Kai was an American martial arts comedy drama that originally aired on YouTube Red.
I know.
On May 2nd, 2018. It ran for 2 seasons on YouTube, but then was picked up by Netflix for another 4 seasons. The final season premiered on Netflix on February 13th, 2025. The series has a total of 6 seasons and 65 episodes. The series was created by Josh Held, John Hurwitz, and Hayden Schlossberg. Held wrote both Hot Tub Time Machine movies. Hurwitz and Schlossberg were writing partners who met in high school and worked on films such as Blockers, American Reunion, and all 3 Harold and Kumar movies. The trio wrote the pilot for Cobra Kai and was co-directed by Hurwitz and Schlossberg. Cobra Kai serves as a continuation of the original Karate Kid franchise. The Karate Kid, originally released in 1984, centers around Daniel Larusso, played by Ralph Macchio, who moves from Newark to California with his mother. Daniel finds himself the victim of intense bullying by a group of karate black belts led by Johnny Lawrence, played by William Zabka, who all attend the elite Cobra Kai dojo. In order to defend himself, Daniel becomes the student to his apartment building's maintenance worker, Mr. Miyagi, played by Pat Morita. Mr. Miyagi teaches Daniel self-defense while also teaching him that fighting isn't always the answer, and also teaching him the importance of standing up for yourself for the right reasons. The film spawned 3 sequels and a spiritual remake starring Jackie Chan and Jaden Smith. The original film is considered to be a classic and one of the best movies of the 21st century. Pat Morita earned himself both a Golden Globe and Oscar nomination for his role of Mr. Miyagi, and the film franchise is well known for being a mainstay in modern pop culture for having memorable quotes such as "wax on, wax off," "get him a body bag," and "sweep the leg." Cobra Kai tells the story of Johnny Lawrence as an adult. He was one of the most popular boys in school, was the best karate student in the Valley, and came from a wealthy family. When Johnny was defeated by Daniel back in 1984, his life took a slow downfall after being kicked out of Cobra Kai. 30 plus years later, Johnny has been cut off by his wealthy stepfather, struggles to make rent, and can't move on from the past. Things change when Johnny saves his teenage neighbor from a group of thugs. Johnny is inspired to reopen Cobra Kai and become the sensei. The series was an instant hit, being praised for its witty humor, fun action sequences, and nostalgic flair. The cast includes William Zabka as Johnny Lawrence, Ralph Macchio as Daniel Larusso, now a successful car dealership owner, Courtney Hengler as Amanda Larusso, Daniel's strong, supportive wife, who seems to be the only rational person in this universe, Zolo Maridueña as Miguel Diaz, Johnny's neighbor and first student, Tanner Buchanan as Robbie Keene, Johnny's estranged teenage son, Mary Mauser as Samantha Larusso, Daniel and Amanda's intelligent but impressionable teenage daughter, Jacob Bertrand as Eli Hawk Moskowitz, Miguel's friend who also joins Cobra Kai, and Gianni DeCenzo as Dimitri, Miguel's other friend who was resistant to learning karate. The series became known for having former characters from the movie franchise to reprise their roles, including Martin Kove, Tamlin Tomita, Elizabeth Shue, and Thomas Ian Griffith.
And so many more.
Oh, yeah.
So many more people.
You can currently watch the entire series on Netflix, and you can also watch The Karate Kid on Hulu. The second and third Karate Kid are also on Hulu, and the next Karate Kid is available on Tubi, and the 2010 remake is on Prime.
Yeah, the next Karate Kid starring I guess a post Buffy Hilary Swank.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was like her first. I think that was like her first like lead role, and I remember renting it and being like, it's pretty bad. Like it's pretty to no one's fault. It was clearly just they wanted to continue the franchise
with a girl,
and they kind of wanted to change things up, but Yeah, it was just I haven't seen it since I was a kid, but I remember even as a kid being like, yeah, this isn't Karate Kid.
And she's like the only kind of main one that has not appeared on Cobra Kai.
She never appeared on Cobra Kai. She was kind of the one that fans were waiting for.
Yeah.
And then when Legends got announced, they were like, oh, well, Jackie Chan has to make an appearance. But since they're going to be in Legends, they were in Legends together, I think the fans were like, it's okay.
Yeah.
But yeah, like all of the original Cobra Kai came back except for like one guy, I think. And like the woman who played the mom came back. Like, yeah, Martin Kove and Terry Silver. And yeah, all the baddies came back, and Chosen came back. And
Chosen.
He ends up being like my favorite character on the show because he's like such a great actor. So funny enough, so we watched the movie and then we watched the pilot for the TV show. We're big fans of Cobra Kai, so we had seen the episode. But then when we went to Pensacola for Maddie's graduation, we were sitting in the hotel room and they were having a Karate Kid marathon on TV, and I believe we watched all of part 2.
Yeah.
And I realized that I hadn't seen part 3 maybe since I originally watched it on VHS when I was like
because I'm trying to think of
that.
I don't think I've watched it.
Yeah, because I think I owned the first one on VHS, and then I was like, okay, and then I knew that there were sequels, so I think I went and rented 2 and 3, but I really liked part 2. I almost like part 2 as much as the original, just because they just continue the story, and it was just like everything was already established. Daniel already knows karate, like we can just kind of continue the story. And the whole thing with the slicing the boards or the glass or whatever, and yeah, it was just a really cool movie, and it was really just kind of funny that we were just kind of like, oh well, I guess we can just watch the second one now.
Yeah.
So we just said we're fans of the movie and fans of the TV show. Did you see the movie in theaters when it first came out?
I probably
was it like the movie to go see at the time?
Yes, because I think Ralph Macchio was coming off of The Outsiders.
Right.
Now, I will have to say I did not like The Outsiders.
Whoa. Unpopular opinion. Hot take.
Yes.
I'm just kidding.
I am an original S.E. Hinton book Outsiders person. And The Outsiders, of course, I know we're doing a sidebar here as we usually do, but The Outsiders is an first person perspective.
Yep.
And so those kind of books are really hard to translate.
Right.
And I just thought The Outsiders, the movie, was terrible. But I know people love it, and I know it was just stacked with all the hotties of the day. Emilio, Rob Lowe, Tom Cruise.
It's pretty insane,
Patrick Swayze,
all the people that are in that movie. Diane Lane,
Michelle Mayerink.
Mayerink. I always say Mayerink.
Oh, yeah. So Ralph Macchio.
Leif Garrett.
Leif Garrett and C. Thomas Howell. Hottie, later on a bad guy in Criminal Minds.
Yeah.
But yes, so it was off the heels of that.
Yeah.
So it was just like, we got to go see it. I mean, it's Ralph Macchio, Johnny. And so
do it for Johnny,
stay gold, So yes, it was all the rage on Tiger Beat and Teen Beat and all the magazines. And yes, so I saw it probably at least twice in the movie theaters.
What was it about Karate Kid that you liked?
So I think it was actually my brother took judo when he was in high school, and it's kind of funny is that it was truly also based because he was being bullied in school. I think I maybe have told this story before.
I think so, maybe.
Kids were taking his money, and I think like the school librarian ended up telling my mom about it, and my mom was a big believer in like, well, I'm going to try to help you. I don't know how to handle bullies, but I can teach you how to take care of yourself.
Right, how to defend yourself.
How to defend yourself. And so she signed my brother up at the YMCA for judo lessons, and I believe obviously karate was maybe part of that as well.
Yeah.
So I knew of that, And I was intrigued that this was also happening. And they were like my age. So, yeah, I mean, this was like my peers, you know, cutie guys and high school drama, stuff like that. So, yeah, I mean, I think it just was relatable to me in the time. Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I was about to start talking and then my brain just stopped for a second.
Okay.
My brain just like hit pause just for a second. Yeah, so we had it on so obviously the movie came out the year I was born, so obviously I didn't see it in theaters.
Yes.
But we had it on VHS. I kind of just grew up having it on VHS for as long as I can remember. So when I remember it just like being in our collection for a while before I was like, I want to watch this movie. And I think maybe it came on TV and it was like edited, and I was super young. We were still living in Central at the time. So this was like a while. This was like when my parents were still married. And I remember I'm like, okay, I'm going to watch this movie. And I remember watching it and like, I remember the first time watching it because I remember watching it with my friend Michael, and it's one of those things where like you're watching the movie and like you know like the basics of what's happening, but you don't get everything. Like you don't get some of the jokes, some of the references. I didn't realize that like Johnny was rolling a joint in the bathroom stall. Obviously, I was like 7 or 8, and there were all these like terms and things where I was just like I didn't understand it. So I kind of just didn't watch it. And then maybe when I was about 10 or 11, I watched it again, and then I understood everything. I was just like, oh, okay, it happened. This happened to me so many times when I was like 10 or 11, where I watched a movie for the first time in a few years, and I was like, oh, my parents let me watch this. I was just like, not with the Karate Kid. Karate Kid's pretty harmless, but with other movies, I remember watching it when I was like 11 or 12 and being like, oh, I get that joke now. And,
got it, yeah.
With Karate Kid, it was kind of like that, but then I kind of understood like the bullying. I kind of understood like the self-defense. I understood like all the terms and all the like karate terms and stuff. And I understood that like all of the chores that he was doing for Mr. Miyagi was teaching him like muscle memory and building muscle and reflexes. And I was like, oh, I get it. This is a really good movie. And so then I kind of obsessively watched it. It just became one of my favorite movies as a kid. Obviously, being a short kid, I got picked on. I didn't take karate to take self-defense. I was really good with like my words. I was really good with like
comebacks,
kind of comebacks and being funny and kind of alleviating the situation by like making like the bully laugh and stuff like that. And I was really good at that. I was really good at like talking myself out of getting my ass kicked, probably, like, because I was a little bit of a smart ass. I'm not going to sit here and say that there was a little bit of, when I watch Daniel sometimes in the movie, I'm just like, all right, dude, you brought that on yourself. Like, why did you do that? Like,
oh yeah,
you know. And I'm just like, and I think of myself when I look back and I was just in my mind, I'm like, I'm being picked on, I'm being bullied, and I'm like, you completely started that, Jeff.
Oh,
like,
absolutely.
you completely started that. They were not bothering you at all, and you decided to be an asshole. And it was just like
in the bathroom scene.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, when he brought,
and they were kind of leaving him alone at that point.
Yeah,
and
he brought the hose in or whatever.
I mean, you know, it's not like he should let the bullies like get away with it, but at the same time, it's like, don't rattle the cage. Like, why would you
poke the bear?
Why would you do that? And so I definitely, Daniel kind of annoyed me a lot. And I definitely was more of like Mr. Miyagi. I thought he was really cool and interesting. But when I continued watching the movies, I started to like Daniel a little bit more because he became less of a hothead, I guess. But I love The Karate Kid. It was a movie that, I mean, you and I both can probably recite it. We've both seen it so many times.
Yeah.
Such a great movie.
Also, just real quick, it was also very current with Pat Morita. Mm-hmm. We all knew him as Arnold from Happy Days.
Right.
So, I mean, not that we were all hot after Pat Morita, of course, but he was always like the funny guy on Happy Days. So it was kind of like, oh, okay, Pat Morita is going to be in a movie now. Like, this is, got to be funny or something. So he was a little bit, funny.
Oh, he definitely brought the humor and when he does the bottles, and he's like, how'd you do that? He's like, I don't know, first time, like first try. Or whatever he says, like, oh yeah, he definitely kind of had that comedic timing. Oh yeah. So watching the pilot, what did you think of the pilot the first time we watched it? Because we've seen it since. So.
Yeah. So that very first time we watched it, and it was after How I Met Your Mother with the whole like Barney Stinson birthday.
Yeah.
And William Zabka comes in.
His bachelor party.
Oh, it was his bachelor party. Okay,
I was trying to remember. Yeah,
I was like, okay, I knew it was one party.
Yeah.
And does Ralph Macchio come in?
So they bring Ralph Macchio, and they're like, we brought you the real Karate Kid. And he's just like, what are you talking about? His whole viewpoint was that Johnny was the real Karate Kid because he was the only one that actually knew karate, and that Daniel won
with an illegal
move, which they bring up in the pilot. And it's really cool because a part of me wants to think that episode of How I Met Your Mother inspired Cobra Kai.
Oh, I absolutely think it does.
Just kind of having William Zabka comes back, because he kind of comes back as like a recurring character in the final season. He was one of Barney's groomsmen. Like they kind of bring him back, and he has this whole competitive thing with Ted, with wanting to become Barney's best friend, and like this really funny kind of back and forth, kind of really showing that like William Zabka has a really great sense of humor. He can do comedic acting, and he's in on the joke. Like he knows that those movies are ridiculous, like in their own way. Like they're great movies, but like he knows that like his character was like really over the top, like really kind of in 80s
and that
teen
everyone
fashion.
Sees him as the villain of those movies.
And in reality, and it was also before Cobra Kai, probably after the episode of How I Met Your Mother, where I want to say Funny or Die they used to do Zach Morris's Trash, where they do all these episodes where they're like, actually this character is like a huge piece of shit. With Karate Kid, they did the whole thing where it was like, from Johnny's point of view, Daniel is the bad guy.
Yeah.
And they actually make
a good case.
Really good points. The only thing they were like, okay, the only thing that like Daniel didn't bring on himself was when they randomly rolled him, when they kicked him down the hill, when they were driving past him. And he had like the thing on his head. Like that was the only time where like he didn't like instigate it.
Yeah.
But yeah, and it's just really funny. Like looking at it, and you're like, oh yeah, you're right. You're just kind of like, we still root for Daniel when we watch Karate Kid. He's still the underdog to me, but I definitely see a universe where fans look at Johnny as the victim and Daniel as the villain.
Yeah, because Martin Cove was like, you do this, sweep the let. Like he was just listening to his sensei, and Martin Cove wasn't really great as a teacher.
Right.
He was pretty ruthless.
And then at the end of the movie, Johnny takes the trophy and gives it to Daniel. He's like, you're all right, Larusso. Like, and it was kind of this whole idea that like you stand up to your bully and you show them that like you're not afraid of them, then they'll have respect for you, which I don't always agree with, but in this universe, that's what happened. Yeah.
So I loved the pilot. Yeah. I loved how... Because when we were watching the second movie in Florida, I'd asked you, I said, the whole like parking lot scene was only in part 2. Like we never saw this.
Because you were still down in the casino during the first part of the movie when we were watching it. And then when you came up, you asked me about that.
Right.
And I was like, so I always wondered if that was like a deleted scene that they just added to the second one. Because Elizabeth Shue also wasn't in that scene. So I'm wondering if they like reshot it for the sequel or what.
Well, I have no idea. Right. But I loved how it picked up from his perspective on like the way he could never recover from like that experience that night, from the way he was treated by Martin Cove, and just all of his family issues. He was an alcoholic. He obviously had estrangements with his son, but he still never gave up. I mean, he still knew his karate. I mean, he like defends this little kid, and I loved it. I mean, I've seen William Zabka in other things. Like he was in Back to School with Rodney Dangerfield. Of course, he was like a douche in that one. Of course, he's good at being like that guy.
I mean, he's the cocky blonde guy. He started that teen movie stereotype.
For sure. So
him and James Spader.
I love the pilot because I think it set up a lot of things. I mean, obviously, then there's the whole with Ralph Macchio's daughter hits his car and he sees her, but then he doesn't know it's her until he goes to the dealership, and all of these things start snowballing to start it all back again. And it did it really well. It didn't, you could easily be like, oh, it's so contrived, but it seemed very natural. It didn't seem like it was a stretch for me to keep wanting to watch it. I was like, oh, okay, yeah, they're all back again.
Yeah, they did a really good job of. I mean, they kind of did a real. I mean, we never watched the final season. We still have to watch the final season of Cobra Kai. That came out in February when we were in the middle of our crazy work schedule, your work schedule. We were doing stuff for the pod. Like, it's been kind of hard for us to jump on shows all the time. But I really liked it just because they did, like you said, they did such a good job with like the storytelling. And and they eventually reach a point to where they point out how kind of ridiculous the show, kind of like ridiculous the premise is, where it's like, you know, why is karate, like why are people in the valley so obsessed with karate, like that whole kind of thing. And that's why I kind of added like that Daniel's wife is the only rational person, because she's just the only one. She's kind of like the Ben Wyatt of this show, where she's just kind of like, only thing she's not doing is looking at the camera, being like, "What the hell's going on?" Like Ben Wyatt does.
Why are y'all all upset about this?
Yeah, and I really just love the humor. I loved that it kind of I love the focus on Johnny. I love the kind of the opening with they kind of show him like Daniel's kind of having his moment in the sun. Everyone's picking him up and cheering him on, and Johnny's just still laying on the floor, and they just kind of zoom in on him laying on the floor, and you're like, you know, it is always kind of interesting where, you know, the movie franchise just broke off, and it was all about Daniel for obvious reasons. He was the Karate Kid, but you know, and it's just like, but what happened to that guy? You know, it's just like, that's always like what I liked. That's what I like so much about Cobra Kai, because it's just like, and even though Daniel does play a big part in it, it really is all about Johnny, and it really is all about his journey. They do start focusing on the kids a lot, like the teenagers and stuff. It kind of becomes about their drama a lot, but Johnny is always kind of at the center of it, and him and Ralph Macchio have the best chemistry.
Oh, like they do. It's crazy. Just, it's like they're still like 17. Yeah. It's crazy how good they are together.
It's really funny to watch during the final season when I was getting ready to premiere. They were doing all these like cast interviews, and I'll watch all those on YouTube, and you know, they're just kind of like the dads that are just sitting with all the teenagers, and they just have such a funny back and forth just as like human beings. They've known each other for 40 years. And yeah, it's just a lot of fun to watch and to see all these characters come back. And I just really, and it still had like the Karate Kid like vibe to it. It still felt like you were in, I mean, obviously we're in the universe, we're seeing the characters in front of us, but it had the same feeling as the Karate Kid movies did, where it was like, you're in reality, but it's just a little turned up a little bit. Like, it's just a little bit more like amped up.
I kind of, going back to How I Met Your Mother, I kind of feel like we're in Barney Stinson's fan fiction.
Yes.
Like, he wrote that, like, he's
on his Doogie Howser computer.
Exactly. And so you just are like, is this what Barney Stinson really thought? Like, you know, the whole tournament, you know, destroyed Johnny, and you know, this is what his life has been like because it was so unfair that he got portrayed as the villain. Yeah, so it's like the movie became reality.
Right.
So
it is unfortunate that Cobra Kai came out after How I Met Your Mother ended, because we really could have seen like some really good jokes with that, and William Zabka could have come back and been like, oh, I'm in Cobra Kai now. Like, it would have been really funny, but and then they could have had some random thing where like Barney was like a ghostwriter for it or something like that. That'd be really funny. But yeah, I love that they brought that kind of that idea of Johnny being the victim into the zeitgeist, especially I think How I Met Your Mother was probably the real people the writers that pushed that idea. They probably just got a kick out of it and never thought it was going to catch on like it did. And it did. I think we could probably say that we could probably give them at least a little bit of credit for coming up with
I absolutely do. I do, because I think a lot of people really stopped and were like, he got a bad deal. Like he, you know, got he got his ass kicked by Martin Kove at the beginning of the second one, and it was just like, he got second place. I mean, all right. So we talked about how much we like this show, but I mean, it's hard not to look at like the nostalgia aspect of it. Do you think that this show is actually
good on its own, or do you think that the nostalgia kind of helps it be more watchable, likable? Do you think it kind of appeals to our obsession with nostalgia? Because we are a nostalgia obsessed society at this point.
Well, I don't think you can have Cobra Kai without the Karate Kid.
Right.
And what I mean by it is you do have to feel some sort of sympathy for Johnny.
Mm-hmm.
And that goes back to the Karate Kid.
Right.
So, I mean, if this was just some random story about a guy down on his luck who used to be a former like karate high school,
Mm-hmm.
competition guy, I mean, sure, it probably would be okay. And, we wouldn't know these characters.
Mm-hmm.
They would be new to us. So I definitely feel like you have to have
Right.
the Karate Kid to love Cobra Kai.
Yeah.
I mean, I love it on its own because I love the Karate Kid.
Right.
But yeah, I think it would be hard without it. Although if it was just a random show that came on, I mean, I think it would have been likable.
Yeah, I mean, I think the show is definitely good on its own, but like you said, I think the nostalgia helps make it more identifiable, make it more relatable, make it more like make it more relatable. I think that's the best word I could think of.
Well, I mean, really, it is relatable in the sense of you have feelings for these characters because you were either Team Johnny or Team Daniel. I mean, most everyone in the 80s was Team Daniel because that was what the perception was.
Right.
He was the good guy.
He was the underdog.
He was the underdog. He was the one who was being bullied. And so I do think it could have stood on its own as just a new show, but the fact that it's tied to the Karate Kid pulls at the heartstrings, at those memories, at the love that you had for that movie, and it kind of starts to bring closure to two guys we grew up with, or at least that, you knew later on. But, I mean, when this came out and after you showed me the How I Met Your Mother episode, I mean, I was all over that episode. I was like, oh my God, this is hilarious, and because I have unpopular opinions about a lot of movies, and I will admit, I don't know if I ever felt like, Johnny was the wrong one. I mean, he was definitely portrayed as the bully throughout the movie, but I could have definitely have seen that from his perspective. So, yeah.
Have you ever been in like a physical fight before?
No, not really.
Any close calls?
I'm really trying to think, and not even with my siblings. I mean, they could both tell you because, I mean, my brother, like I've said, is 10 years older than me. And by that point, he knew karate and judo. My sister is 7 years older than I am. And so we did not physically fight. I mean, I would even stretch it as much as she did not ever slap me or punch me or anything like that. I mean, we also were not permitted to fight. I mean, that just was not acceptable in our household. But I'm like really trying to think
yeah, for us, especially me and Tyler, we were more of like, we never got into like any actual fist fights. And me and my sister, I mean, there were never like actual fights. It was just
yelling
and maybe pushing every now and then. But I've never been in an actual fist fight. I've talked about this to many people, and they don't fully believe me when I tell them that I've like never been in a fist fight before. I guess maybe it's common for a guy to have been in at least one fight in his life. I've come close. There have been a few times where I came close. There have been times where I've been hit, but I don't call that a fight. You know what I mean? Like I mean,
y'all weren't like on the ground punching and swinging.
No.
I would say probably the closest was I was at Superior, the Mexican restaurant uptown in New Orleans, and it was like a law school event, and there was this guy, and he was an alum of Loyola, so he had graduated like a few years before I had started. His name is Kevin, and so it was like an alum mixer, so you could meet alumni of Loyola, and we were talking, and a guy walked by, and so Anyway, so we were at this restaurant at this alum mixer, and a guy walked by, and I don't know if he was with Loyola or not, but he was being really loud and obnoxious, and I guess in his like hand movements, he poured like his drink on me, like a lot. I mean, not like purposefully poured it, but I guess in just his hand movements, it like spilled all over me.
Oh.
And Kevin, the guy, was like, dude, like, say you're sorry. And he was like, whatever, it was an accident. And he like, puffed the chest, and not that he was going to go to town or fight with this guy, but that was probably the closest I've ever seen a guy like try to step up and fight for me.
Yeah. Step up to the streets.
But one other story that was like direct, like he was ready to like get into it.
Yeah.
But nothing happened. The guy was like, sorry, man. And like walked away. But so I have another funny story. So I've not been in a fight. So the summer of 1988, when I lived in Euless with my sister, I worked at a Kroger.
Okay.
And I dated this guy, just summer crush, summer lovin', whatever you want to call it. And he lived in Euless, and I went back to college. And that fall, I had started dating a guy on the football team. Mm-hmm. And I would hang at the football dorm at night and, maybe spend the night there every now and then. And so my sister, like the maniac that she is, had given this guy my address and information, and he had a friend that lived in Monroe, and they decided to come to Monroe for the weekend. Well, he started calling my dorm, and my roommate called me at the football dorm and was like, there's this guy calling you and says he's coming to the dorm. And I was like, oh my God. I'm like, he is here? I'm like, how in the hell did he find me? Because he had actually written me letters. It's really funny, but our addresses were only box numbers. So it didn't give any indication of like where I actually lived on campus. And so I am telling football player guy, I'm like, oh my God, this guy that I dated this summer is coming here. And I don't know why. He's friends with a fraternity guy, and I don't know what he wants. And he's like, well, let's go out and see what he wants.
Yeah.
And this guy was pretty big. He was the center of the football team, which is usually one of the biggest guys on the team.
Right.
And I was like, nope. I will go out and meet him. I will go out. You do not need to come. Like, and the guy from Euless, from Kroger, was like a stick. Like, think Andy, but like short, like really, really thin. And so I walk out of the dorm, and the guy from Euless and his friend who lived in Monroe were pulling up, and I'm like, what are you doing here? And he's like, oh, I wanted to come see you. I missed you. And I just wanted to see if like there was any chance. And while I am saying there is no chance, all of a sudden I can see his gaze behind me, and football player guy that I was dating, along with about 10 other guys on the football team, are all walking out of the football dorm. Yeah. Because it was across the street from my dorm. And I was like, oh my God, these two kids are getting ready to get killed. I was like, it was like the offensive line was coming out to like pummel these two guys. And I was like, everyone, like, I was like, take a step back. So I was like, you've got to go. Do not come back here. Obviously, I'm dating someone, and like whatever. Yeah. And so that was maybe about the only other time that maybe someone kind of almost got in a fight for me, but nothing happened. No blows were thrown. I sent guys back to the dorm. I sent them on their way to their house, wherever he lived. Yeah. And so
you never saw him again?
Oh, I did. So the story about that was fall of 88. Okay. And my sister got married to Patrick's dad in the winter, February of 1989 on her birthday. And I flew from Monroe to Dallas during a snowstorm, and my sister sent him to pick me up at the airport. Yes. And he was doing donuts on the interstate. I was freaking out. I wanted to kill my sister for multiple reasons, aside from her giving him my phone number and actual physical address, but sending him instead of her coming to get me at the airport. Yes.
Classic.
So, yes. But actually, we were friends for a little bit on Facebook, but I unfriended him after a while. There was no reason. I think maybe he found me and but I don't know. So
yeah. While you were talking, I was trying to think of some close calls that I had, and probably the only time where I was like, it's finally happening. I'm going to get into this fight. I have to. I don't know how to properly punch someone. I didn't know what I was doing. It was just, I was 21. Yeah, I was about 21 when it happened. So this was maybe Jamie and I were married, but we were definitely dating at this point. And we were at this bar that was this bar and grill type place where it had an outdoor patio, and it was in the middle of the Destin Commons, which is Perkins Row, where you have this where there's general parking, but then there's parallel parking in certain spots. There was this guy in a Lamborghini, and which is so funny because 80s, he was in a Lamborghini, and he had to park his Lamborghini. This was kind of the thing that a lot of people in Destin did, because there was a lot of money in Destin, especially with the locals. He had to park his Lamborghini in front of Blue Point so everyone could see it.
Of course.
And everyone could take pictures of it, or whatever people do when they see a Lamborghini. So he sat there in the middle of the Destin Commons, in the middle of just think of you're outside at a restaurant at Perkins Row, and there's just someone in the middle of one of those streets just revving their engine, waiting for a parking spot to open. There was maybe 6 spots open, or maybe 8. And so it was me and Jamie, and then a bunch of other people on the patio. Some of us knew each other, some of us didn't. And we were all just kind of watching the spectacle. And at the end of it, when he finally parked, we all applauded. And I don't know why he honed in on me and Jamie. Maybe we were especially laughing hard at him or something like that. Or maybe he just saw us and he just honed in on us. But he came over and started talking. This was we were 21. This guy was in his 50s. It was
God.
He was twice our age at least. And he started started talking shit to us, and we were like, dude, we're just having fun. It's really not that big of a deal.
Everyone was laughing at you.
We were all clapping. He was like, oh, but he kept saying that we started it or whatever. And then, oh man, get the fuck out of here. We don't care about you. We're probably talking somewhere about that. And then he calls Jamie a fucking bitch. And that was when I know that when someone I care about is in peril, I will step up and scream at someone, because that's never happened to us. It kind of did.
No, I was going to say, I think you almost did at a parade.
I almost did. It ended up not happening. I thought someone was about to push you, and I was in running mode, ready to tackle him. But it didn't happen, so we didn't have to worry about that. And so that was when I also had alcohol in me. So when he said that to her, I just stood up and I just started screaming at him. I was just you're not going to talk to her. You're not going to talk to me. You're not going to talk to anybody on this patio. I probably said he had a small dick, or I probably said something inappropriate, and he was just dude, we can go out in the parking lot and settle this. I'm we're already in the parking lot. I said something like that, and my mouth, once I'm really mad, or once and this is when I was 21, when I was really unfiltered, I was a lot more outgoing. I was a lot more straightforward. I was a lot more vocal at this point in time, because I was a young, immature drunk, and so he kind of when I kind of called him back out on it, he kind of walked away, and I guess he met up with his friends or something like that. And so I kind of just, okay, that's done. we're done. And we probably took another shot for me to calm down. I probably smoked a cigarette or something like that. And I'm going to the bathroom, and him, I guess it was him and 3 of his friends. He stops me. He's like, do you really want to fight me? And I was just like,
that was 20 minutes ago.
It was
dude.
Probably an hour had passed, at least an hour, because we used to spend, we'd get off work at 4 or 5, and we'd be there until midnight some nights.
Wow, okay.
So, yeah, so when he said that, I still had the liquid courage, so I was just yeah, I was just let's go, because I think he just I don't know what he wanted out of this, but he seemed mad that I kept calling his bluff, but I'm why are you even trying to start this? And so I'll never forget, like, I have to cringe at myself a little bit. I remember, like, going out in the parking lot, waiting by his car, and every time he would kind of walk by, like, I'd just be like, have my arms up, being like, are we gonna do this? Like, and then Jamie was finally probably like, let's just go home. Like, let's not,
Please stop.
Because Hard Rock Cafe was like right across the street from Blue Point, and that's where we worked. So it was just kind of like, let's not do this right by our workplace. I'm like, you're right. Let's leave. Let's de-escalate. So that was probably that was the only time where I was like, yes, let's fight. That was the only time where I ever was like the one that was like, let's fight each other. But it ended up not happening.
Because I will tell you, and I've said this many times when we've watched movies with fights or, TV shows with fights, that I am fine with knowing that you would defend my honor.
Yeah.
Like, I know you. But for me to see you getting hit, like, once, I would be traumatized.
Yeah.
Just the thought of you hurt or in pain or physically maimed or seeing you injured, cut, bleeding, whatever, I would be more upset than the guy insulting me or the guy pouring a drink on me. Seeing you physically hurt would kill me.
Yeah.
And I would rather just walk away. And that's
right.
who I am. Like,
yeah.
just as a person, like, I don't get into a lot of fights. You and I do not fight. So,
right.
We definitely talk about things more than argue about anything.
Right.
So I know you would defend me.
Right.
But
yeah,
I wouldn't want you to actually do it.
Right. I mean, like, in that, other than that close call at the parade, we don't really also put ourselves in situations like where you don't really go to bars. We don't. I mean, if there are obnoxious people, we've been on cruise ships with plenty of drunken, obnoxious people.
My God.
And I mean, like, we're just not gonna
hang with.
We're not gonna
just go to the other side of the ship,
or we'll just watch them make an ass out of themselves, which is really fun to do, also.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't ever see myself getting into a fight unless I am literally unless they are coming at me and I have to literally defend myself.
Correct.
Like,
I mean,
that's not the only time I ever see especially now at 40. I can't ever, like, the idea of getting into a fist fight at 40, I think about guys that do that or people that do that. I'm just like, you clearly have something to prove, because, and when you don't have something to prove, you have the mentality of like, I'm not going to get into a fight. Like,
well, and that obviously would be the only time. If, like, someone was actually purposefully coming to you, I would fully expect you to defend yourself and pummel them.
Yeah.
I mean, and while you always talk about you're short, you were a short kid, you're a short king. You are pretty strong. I mean, you've got your muscles are pretty big, and it comes from your job. And I think people might underestimate you.
Yeah.
And so again, I'm a big believer in, I know you would honor me and fight for me and take up for me, and I love you for that. But the thought of you being hurt or injured, maimed permanently in some way
that's true. Yeah.
I mean, they could bust your eyeball out or something, or eardrum.
I just remembered Danny from Real World Austin, who broke his face from getting into a fight.
And these days, I mean, it doesn't take much. I mean, you hit your head on a table or whatever. So anyway, please don't fight.
I won't.
Thank you.
I won't, but I might have to sweep the leg one day.
Sweep the leg.
All right. Are you ready to get into this plot summary?
Let's do it.
Okay, so we're going to get into the movie. I typed out the movie, but I'm probably just going to kind of skim through it just because we've both seen it, and I can kind of just not recite it, but I can just kind of tell you what happened. Okay, so, and stuff that we've also kind of touched on as well.
Yeah.
So, fall of 1984, Newark natives Daniel Larusso and his mother Lucille move to sunny California from Newark. They moved to Reseda, which I didn't know.
Reseda,
Woodland Hills, sex. Yeah, so I didn't know of the. So when I think of Los Angeles, I think that, at least when I was a kid, I thought all the houses were big, and it was all the houses were on the beach, and I didn't fully know until I watched this movie. I'm like, oh yeah, it's just like any other city where there's middle class, working class, upper class.
They move into the original Melrose Place with the apartment complex and the swimming pool in the middle of it. So just kidding. So
but it's called the South Seas apartment complex in Reseda. So while moving to the complex, Daniel meets Freddie, a kid his age who goes to his high school. After seeing Daniel do a karate kick to open a gated door, Freddie asks him if he knows karate, to which Daniel replies yes, which that is a little bit of embellishment on the truth. He took a couple classes at the Y, which is kind of, his version of he knows karate. Right. Freddie invites him to a beach party with some other fellow classmates. So, hey, you can get to know some kids before the first day of school. Seems like a great situation considering he just moved there. So Daniel then meets the complex's maintenance worker, Mr. Miyagi, who promises to fix their faucet, which is a funny little exchange. After what? After. So the next day at the beach party, Daniel meets Allie, played by Elizabeth Shue, and there is definitely a spark between the two.
Oh, yeah.
Freddie warns Daniel that she is from the hills, implying that she is rich and hangs out with other rich kids. Later on in the party, Daniel finally goes to talk to Allie, and while they're getting to know each other, they are interrupted by Allie's ex-boyfriend, Johnny Lawrence, and his motorcycle gang, which I had to kind of call them that, but his motorcycle gang, Bobby, Tommy, Dutch, and Jimmy. Johnny tries to talk to Allie, but she doesn't want to talk. After he smashes her radio, Daniel decides to intervene. Daniel is unaware that Johnny is a black belt and is the star pupil at the elite Cobra Kai dojo. Daniel tries to fight them, but is quickly defeated by Johnny. So over the next few weeks, the Cobra Kai boys begin to harass and bully Daniel, which includes making him flop at soccer tryouts, pushing him off a steep hill while riding his bike. But things take a turn for the worse when Daniel decides to prank Johnny at the school's Halloween dance by pouring water on him while he's sitting in the bathroom rolling up a doobie. Johnny and the Cobra Kai's chase Daniel through a vacant field right behind his apartment complex. They catch up to him. They start to beat him up. Suddenly, Mr. Miyagi comes out of nowhere, takes them all down, and he helps Daniel back to his apartment, and Daniel convinces him to teach him karate. Mr. Miyagi is reluctant, but he eventually agrees. Mr. Miyagi and Daniel go to the Cobra Kai dojo, ran by Vietnam vet John Kreese. It's important to kind of introduce all these characters because they come important in Cobra Kai at some point. Kreese teaches the Cobra Kais to strike first, strike hard, and show no mercy. Something that Miyagi considers to be the exact opposite of what true karate stands for. Miyagi and Kreese exchange words, and Miyagi eventually strikes a deal with Kreese. Daniel will enter the All Valley Karate Tournament and fight against the Cobra Kais in a fair, neutral setting. Miyagi also insists that Johnny and his friends leave Daniel alone until the tournament, to which Kreese agrees to. So Daniel begins training at Mr. Miyagi's home, and at first he doesn't understand the training process. He makes him basically just do household chores.
Oh yeah, it's great.
Get him to wax the patio, paint the house, paint the fence. And at first he's just like, what's the point of all this? You're just getting me to do, manual labor at your house. But then very quickly realizes he's like, okay, show me paint the fence. And he starts doing all these karate moves and learns, and Daniel figures out that he has actually taught him defense moves, how to defend himself from getting struck. I'm pretty sure karate's probably a little bit more complicated than that, but you know what? It's a great movie. It made for a fantastic scene. So.
Oh yeah, because everyone in the theater, I remember, we were like, got it, okay.
So he realizes that he taught him defense moves. So then Miyagi takes Daniel on a boat, teaches him balance, takes him to the beach to teach him balance and endurance by fighting waves. While at the beach, very important, Daniel sees Miyagi doing a move called the crane kick.
The crane kick.
The tournament finally arrives, and Cobra Kai is shocked to see how Daniel has improved, making it to the semifinals. Kreese convinces Bobby to pull an illegal move to take Daniel out of the competition. Bobby is the only compassionate Cobra Kai. I think he's the only one that has ever, hey, Johnny, stop, cut it out. It's 4 against 1. This isn't fair. But, everyone else in Cobra Kai is like, we strike first, we strike hard, we show no mercy, all of that. So Bobby, even though he's reluctant, even though Bobby will be disqualified, Kreese doesn't care, and Bobby does what he's told, just like Johnny does a little bit later, and Daniel injures his knee. Daniel is forced to withdraw from the competition, and now knows that even though he showed up and did well, Cobra Kai still got the best of him. Daniel convinces Miyagi to do a pain suppression technique he did on him earlier in the movie, and just as they announce Johnny as the default winner, Daniel returns to the competition. Johnny and Daniel fight each other, and it turns into an evenly matched fight due to neither one of them being able to break through the other's defense. After Johnny is forced to sweep the leg by Kreese, Daniel knows he won't be able to last much longer in the competition due to his injury. Daniel remembers the crane kick he saw Miyagi do at the beach and decides to try it. He assumes the starting position, successfully kicking Johnny in the face, and wins the competition. The crowd, including Allie, Daniel's mom, Freddie, and Freddie's friends, all rush the stage and celebrate Daniel's victory. Johnny takes the trophy from the ref and approaches Daniel and says, "You're all right, Larusso," and hands him the trophy. The movie ends with Miyagi looking at Daniel proudly. Freeze frame, the music swells, such a great score. That score is so perfect. It's so memorable. The soundtrack kicks ass to this movie. It's just banger after banger. I love this movie so much. All right. So Cobra Kai pilot summary, Ace Degenerate. So we are picking up right where the first movie ended. We are at a flashback to the 1984 All-Valley Karate Championship, showing Johnny Lawrence lying defeated on the mat after Daniel Larusso lands his iconic crane kick. The scene transitions to the present, where Johnny lives a solitary and modest life. A photo on his refrigerator hints at his strained relationship with his son, Robbie. After a solitary breakfast, Johnny takes out the trash and brushes off his teenage neighbor, Miguel Diaz, and drives away in his red Pontiac Firebird to do his job as a handyman. On his way, he notices a billboard for Daniel LaRusso's car dealership, which irritates him. At work in a gated community, Johnny endures mistreatment and disrespect, a stark contrast to his privileged upbringing. A heated argument with a customer leads to his firing. Later, he stops at a bodega for pizza, where he is mocked by a homeless woman, Lynn. Outside, Miguel is being harassed by bullies who pour Pepto-Bismol on him and slam him into Johnny's car. When Johnny intervenes, the bullies turn on him, but are swiftly defeated by his old-school karate. Or as my boo says, karate.
Karate.
However, the fight ends with Johnny being pepper-sprayed and arrested. The next morning, Johnny returns home after spending the night in jail and is approached by Miguel, who eagerly asks about his fighting skills. Johnny dismisses him, calling it old-school karate, and refuses to teach him. Inside, Johnny finds his wealthy stepfather, Sid, waiting. Frustrated by Johnny's failure, Sid offers him money to sever ties. Johnny angrily tears up the check, prompting Sid to leave in disgust. Left alone, Johnny drinks while watching TV, only to be aggravated further by a commercial for LaRusso Auto Group featuring
Yeah.
Daniel. What was the movie he was watching? We had to look it up.
I forgot.
Yeah, okay. In anger, Johnny throws a beer bottle at the screen and storms out. Later, a drunk and nostalgic Johnny goes for a drive, reminiscing about his Cobra Kai friends and his high school romance with Allie. The memory grows darker as he recalls Daniel stealing Allie, his humiliating loss to Daniel and Mr. Miyagi, and the abusive treatment he endured from his sensei, John Kreese. His thoughts are interrupted when a car full of teenagers crash into his Firebird and drives off. His car is later towed to LaRusso Auto Group, of course. The following morning, Johnny attempts to retrieve his car discreetly, but is spotted by Daniel, who greets him enthusiastically. Encouraged by his cousin Louie, Daniel jokes about Johnny's tournament loss, prompting Johnny to respond that Daniel's victory was due to an illegal kick. I love that they brought that up. In the back of my head, I'm like, Barney Stinson would be so proud. Despite the tension, Daniel offers to repair Johnny's car free of charge. As Johnny prepares to leave, he notices Daniel's daughter among the group of teens in the car that hit him. Fueled by this realization, Johnny reconsiders Miguel's request, using the money from Sid's check, which he got out of the trash and taped up. He decides to teach Miguel karate and reopens the Cobra Kai dojo, determined to bring back the ruthless karate style he once practiced. End of episode.
End of episode. It was so good.
So good. I think it was like 30 minutes or something like that. It was super easy watch. I don't think any of the episodes are super long. Don't quote me on that. They might be longer once they start up on Netflix. But I remember, like, I already had YouTube Premium when the show started, and I remember being like, okay, I'm just going to watch this show one day. And I never did until it got added to Netflix, but I'm glad we eventually did. So it's all on Netflix. If you've seen Karate Kid, you need to watch, and you haven't seen Cobra Kai, you need to watch Cobra Kai.
What you've been doing.
If you've never seen Karate Kid or Cobra Kai, you need to turn this podcast off right now, because you're already gotten through most of it, and you need to go watch all the Karate Kid movies and then watch Cobra Kai, because it's all awesome.
Yes.
All right. You think that about wraps this one up?
I think that wraps it up.
All right. Thanks for tuning in. If you haven't already, go ahead and follow us on whichever platform you're listening to this podcast on. That way you'll be notified every time we publish a new episode. You can also follow us on Instagram at WeJudgePilotPod. We're also on Facebook. You can leave us a comment, suggest a show for us to watch, or leave some emojis in the comments. What you got?
All right, so they're both for the movie and the TV show. So I have the bike, the water, the trophy, the beach, fire, the shower, because he goes dressed as a shower for Halloween. The snake, of course, for Cobra. Skulls, because Johnny and them all dress in those like skeleton costumes. They look creepy. The karate gi. There is an actual crane, like a vehicle crane that like works on buildings, but I will use that for the crane kick.
Why not?
The car, the sponge and soap for wax on, wax off.
Nice. Pizza,
the TV, and the beer. All right. Well, we are going to head out, but we'll talk to you soon. Thanks for listening.